Hit it. No, but I think we got that in the intro, so that's awesome.
Oh, really?
No worries. Welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat.
And I'm Eric.
And we're joined by Stan again and Hyun. They're going to be talking with us about this surprising, I think is the best word for me, Square Enix 2019 E3 presentation. If you all missed it, we did our complete reaction, I guess you could say, just this past hour. So make sure you go check that out. But we're going to be devoting this entire episode to the Square Enix presentation. Guys, I think it's fair to say that we all are a little disappointed. I mean, there was a lot of content released, but just not the content that we seem to want. I mean, I'm kind of perplexed that we've still only seen material or scenes from Midgar, and it looks like we were just talking about this before we paused our conversation to start the podcast, that it seems as if they've pretty much said that this was going to be primarily in Midgar. Do you all want to give some more thoughts on that?
Oh,
go right ahead.
Sorry, and Mike is texting me and trying to keep a drawer with all of the people. Just yeah, everybody's going insane. No, yeah, about the parts thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead first. Just put the.
Well, it seemed in the first 5 minutes or so that he said that not only was this going to be in 2 Blu-ray discs full of content, but that this was going to, he pretty much said this was pretty much going to entirely take place in Midgar. And you were bringing up, like, how big is Midgar going to be to take up that much space, unless there's some kind of bonus content on the second disc that's not really pertaining to the original game.
So I don't want people I don't want to sound like I'm get too much into conspiracy theories and stuff like that, but as a pipe dream, right? If the best possible scenario here is that they're trolling us, right? Because if I don't know how you felt like playing Final Fantasy VII the first time, right? But I remember as a kid, I didn't have any expectations of there being a world map or there being anything outside of Midgar when I played it for the first time, right?
Yeah.
So I was pretty much I had this feeling as a kid playing the game that when you got to the top of the Shinra Tower, you're kind of getting to the end of the game. And I was like, what are these 2 remaining discs for? And I was kind of confused by that, right? And then you get to the end and then you get the world map, right? And it's just like, whoa, what the hell, right? There's whoa, you see the horizon, the curved horizon in 3D, and you're just totally mind blown by that. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of stuff like that can't be replicated today because everybody already knows the story of the game, right? They know how it's broken up and stuff like that. And so first, on the cover art of this game, it doesn't say part 1. It doesn't say the first episode of a trilogy or anything like that. It just says Final Fantasy 7 Remake. And it's on 2 freaking Blu-ray discs, which is just insane because that's twice the size of Final Fantasy 15 at release, right? With its open world, that's 1 Blu-ray disc more than Red Dead Redemption. And I know some people might say, well, there's going to be those games had a lot of installs and stuff that you had to do, but obviously that's going to be the case for this game as well. That's the case for all AAA games, right? And so I'm sitting here thinking, are they trolling us? Are they just doing this to set it up so that we can get that impact one more time, right? They're shutting down everything. They're just showing us Midgar, and they're saying, no, all this other stuff that's going to come out years later. It's on it's going to be on a different game. And then everybody goes into the game thinking, oh, Midgar, that's where it's at, right? And then you get to the end of Midgar, and then the world just, boom, opens up. And then you're like, wait. And you get that feeling all over again. I don't want to give them too much credit because that's kind of Kojima-esque, meta thing to do. But if they did that, that would be freaking insane. That would blow everybody's minds, right? If they did that, that would be the coolest thing that you could possibly do with the game.
Yeah, that would be the only way that they could actually surprise you with the same thing, right? Is if they release no information about the open world, right? And
they don't show us anything.
Yeah,
it's on a different game. It's on a different game. It's not going to come out until 5 years, right? And everybody's saying, oh, it's just going to be Midgar, and then you get to the end, and it's just like, no. That would be
opens
so
up, yeah.
sweet.
So
that would be so sweet.
I will say, if there's any point of the story that can be greatly expanded on, it is Midgar. So if there's, I can't say I'm too surprised that they're doing a full focus on this. And we have to remember there's a different definition of what is considered a full-length RPG. This could still be like a 25 and at most 40-hour game that expands upon it. But I do think that they are going to likely expand us going around all 8 sectors, seeing the upper plate, the lower plate, and diving more into other characters that they mentioned before. So I can see it getting expanded to an RPG length, but I do wonder what their definition of RPG length is.
Yeah, but the thing that just bugs me is those 2 discs, right? Because that's a lot of space. 2 entire Blu-ray discs of content.
Yeah.
That's like how many games these days for the PlayStation release on 2 discs? That's just not a thing anymore.
Here's the thing that I don't understand though. Okay, if it is all in Midgar and it's supposed to be 2 Blu-ray discs, which I really hope they clarify that comment, it's very, very strange because the stuff they've shown us, if you count the Cybernet Connect 2 stuff, which, who knows with that stuff, but we've only seen 4 trailers of very early Midgar stuff, and we've only seen like footage from, things we've noticed or things that we remember from the original game. We've seen a little bit of, fleshing out with, that weird like Heartless Kingdom Hearts thing that like circles around Aerith and stuff, and we can get into that in a little bit, but if this is going to fill out, 80 or 90 or 100 hours of content only in Midgar, I would expect with a 20-minute presentation, we would have seen a lot more story content of them really fleshing the game out to that extent. And we've only seen, we saw the motorbike race or the portion. We saw
time out.
Okay, go ahead.
No, because that's the thing. That's a trick out too, because he has Jesse on his back when he's riding that motorcycle. So that's not the motorcycle chase out of Midgar. That's a different motorcycle chase. So they're adding more motorcycle like driving around and shit.
I just for what's that? Well, for 2
just thinking real quick.
Go ahead.
For the 2 disc thing, do you know what that second disc could be? It could just be an installation disc. Because I think Metal Gear Solid 5 did the same thing.
Yeah, but why would they announce it like that? And that's the thing. I hope they clarify that statement because that's a very bewildering statement to make.
Yeah,
to present it like that.
He said specifically 2 Blu-ray discs worth of content, right? So it doesn't sound like it's an installation disc. It sounds like it's 2 discs with content.
You have no reason to switch between discs, especially if you have the means to install the other content digitally.
Yeah, sure. It's still an installation disc. I grant that. It's still for installation, but it's still 2 discs. How much space is on a Blu-ray disc? It's like
50 gigabyte.
50 gigabytes. So it's 100 gigabytes then, right? That's
unless you dual layer it, then it can become 100. I think.
Yeah, so that would be even more insane. Like, so because like I think now Final Fantasy 15 with all its content on PC is like 150 gigs or something like that, right?
Yeah,
quite a bit.
But that's an open world game, right?
Look, Katase literally said during this presentation, "We will not disappoint you," and I think it would be very, very strange if you said 2 Blu-ray discs and like really advertised it, and that second disc ended up being an installation disc. That would just be total disappointment. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's Square Enix style to hype stuff up. That's stupid.
There's another thing that's really strange also, because like you see in the trailer Cloud running around the Shinra building. If this is all in Midgar, then that's literally like the final dungeon, isn't it? Right? Like
very much.
Like, that's really weird to show, like, I don't know, like, scenes of Cloud running around the final dungeon in your preview trailer at E3, right? That's like, that would be kind of like showing off the trailer of Final Fantasy 15 and having, like, Noctis running around the Broken Insomnia towards the very end of the game. It's like, I don't know, that seems pretty strange to me.
Okay, a dual layer disc can hold 50 gigabyte to ensure a Blu-ray disc format is easily extendable. Future-proof, it also includes support for multi-layer discs, which should allow the storage capacity to be increased to 100 gig to 200 gigabyte, 25 gigabyte per layer.
So maybe he was just trying to say that, hey, our game is so large, it can't fit on a single Blu-ray disc. So it would still be one disc, but when you buy it, you'll just have to download the rest. Which, it'd just be, that'd be pretty normal, I feel like, for certain games.
Yeah, but the actual like casing on one of those was pretty big as well. But as you guys said earlier, it might just be because there's like a fat booklet in it and stuff like that. But I mean, like putting it like that makes it sound like it's coming on 2 discs, which to me, like, that's real weird for a PlayStation 4 game, especially one that's only supposed to take part in Midgar.
Well,
is Midgar this?
That was the thing. Everyone was saying before this, they started releasing all this information was, oh no, they couldn't possibly just make it all Midgar. There's like, yeah, you could flesh that out, but 40 to 50 hours worth, that's a lot. And then to like almost up the ante by saying, well, it's so much that you would need 2 Blu-ray discs. So there's a possibility here that they are doing something like you suggested at the beginning of this podcast, where they're just saying like, okay, like we're just going to tell them about Midgard to kind of keep that surprise reveal, because they are being a little more quiet about this game. I mean, this is very unusual for Square. Like this was the E3 before the game comes out. Usually for Square, like they're chatting about games like 8 years in advance. Granted, they did that with this game too, but they shut up about it for 3 years too.
Yeah.
So
like we didn't get like with Final Fantasy 15 and stuff like that. It felt like I had already played the game from start to finish by the time I got it. Like I started playing it, because they'd shown so much off of the game. There was literally no areas and almost nothing that you hadn't already seen in a trailer or in a gameplay demo or whatever. Most of the open world is just the sky region anyway, so like you'd seen most of that if you'd played the demos and stuff like that. So
who knew we literally had 1/3 the game access through the demo.
Yeah, so it just seems this is very like abnormal for Square Enix to just keep it that on the down low.
An interviewer has got to bring that up. Like the people's curiosity's got to be like, is the game really that big, or do you just have to use an installation disc for like to be able to go to every sector or something?
Well, and that's the thing too, that we just watched 20 minutes, a 20-minute presentation, and there's some good stuff in there, but I feel as if we're seeing the same stuff over and over again, and it's the first 2 or 3 hours of the game, the original, and I'm not seeing 40 to 50 hours here. And now they said they were going to talk much more about it in the future, release much more content, but you think that if there was other parts outside of Midgar, that they would have shown like a little teaser of it, maybe one of the other characters from the game. But, I think like we've kind of seen our party, for the whole first game is, Barrett, Tifa, Aerith, and Cloud.
I think the only 2 things I really learned from this is that it's all going to be in Midgar, and Tifa is still a character in the game.
Oh, and we were right about the combat system.
Yeah, we were we were all spot on with that.
It's funny. I this needs a call out, because I actually had a conversation with Mike about the combat system a few years back, and he made a video about the Final Fantasy 7 remake. Yeah,
I'm talking with him right now.
Yeah, he made that video about the combat system, right? And I floated the idea that the way that they should do it is just have like you run around and fight, and then you have a way you bring out the command menu, and then time slows down, the bullet time, and he uses that exact word in the video, and that's exactly what they did. It almost makes you wonder. Right?
You're talking about the Resident Arc Dark Pixel Gaming, in case people don't know who you're talking about.
That Mike secretly works for Square Enix.
Or that, no,
or that they just stole Eon's.
They stole the idea. They stole the
idea
of the. They stole the idea off of the video.
How do you all?
Oh, that's a good idea. We got it.
How do you all feel about the fact that they gave us the release date yesterday? Do you think that was a good idea? Because there's a part of me now that feels as if it would have been better if they had just waited for that release date to show during this part during E3, given that we didn't really see anything outside of Midgar or anything like that. At least if they held that reveal till then, that could have added some more oomph behind the presentation.
I think they should have shown that trailer like a week or two ahead, just so we could just start speculating about it and then get the full trailer. Like this was just like a half a day's wait for the trailer, for a full trailer.
I think they should have waited.
Anticlimactic. That's the word for anticlimactic. Typical Square Enix marketing. They have no fucking clue what they're doing.
I think they wanted to give the people who went to the concert, right, something of significance, but they couldn't really share more gameplay or like cutscenes because they were saving it all for this E3 presentation. So it was kind of like throw them a bone. They get to be the first ones to know, like the release date, and then we'll upload the trailer that they saw. Whatever, 20 minutes later, and the rest of the world will know.
5 minutes of glory.
Yeah, like those people are like, I knew the release date before anyone else. So,
but I got to watch the trailer in HD before you did. So, I don't know. What are you going to do about that?
It's probably like, I think that's what it was. They're like, well, we don't really have anything of significance we can show them that we're not going to show tomorrow. So, like,
you know what Square Enix is so ridiculously good at? They're so good at giving so much information, but no information at the same time.
Fake. Yeah.
Like they just did that here. Like we got like a little bit of info, but we still have no idea how traversing this game works. Like I assume it's gonna be zone based and like you can take a train around different sectors. If I had to assume. But like we don't have any information like that. You would think that they would take a few more minutes and be like, hey, this is how big our game is, or
and that's
this is how you get from place to place. This is how we're expanding the story. Like they don't go over any of that.
And that's the thing that I was thinking about when we took a little break between our E3 streaming to watch the trailer again, is I was trying to put in concise words what I felt about this presentation. And I think that's the biggest thing is they didn't show me really what I wanted to know. They just showed me a lot more gameplay, which was great. And then they showed me some more scenes from, the first hour and a half of the game, which was kind of cool, but I still have no idea what the main narrative for this game is going to be. If it's going to take place in Midgar and it's 40 to 50 hours, what is the general plot or what's the premise of the game? How is it going to take so long? And then, like you said, how are we going to traverse this city? How are we going to get around? Show me the world that we're going to be interacting with. Show me how cool it is to travel through Midgar, a city this size, and what kind of interactions I can have with that world that is different or better than the original. They didn't show me that. They just showed, a bunch of redone scenes that I already had in the original game, but then they kind of tweaked them a little bit, and that's fine. That there's nothing wrong with that, but they've already done that multiple times now. Now it was the time for them to actually show us what this game is going to actually be about. And I'm still at a loss for words of like, what is this game going to be about if it's going to be all Midgar? Maybe they're trying to be quiet and, secret about it. And maybe they will gently let that information out, whether it's on release day or prior to that. Hey, no, there's more than Midgar. But I was disappointed that we didn't get to see the overworld, for example. How is that going to work? I guess I was hoping for more.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised we got 20 minutes. I thought that we might get 10 minutes, and we got it for 20 minutes, and we didn't get what I wanted, unfortunately.
Like, we got more of the bombing mission. And now, granted, I really liked seeing Cloud and Barrett fight first.
That was really great.
That was a great clip really for gameplay. Dynamic. Yeah. Yeah. Did any of you notice when I was rewatching it, I noticed this, that Cloud curses twice. He even drops he drops an F-bomb too. Barrett curses. Really? Yeah. So when I heard Cloud drop an F-bomb, I thought to myself, is this going to be rated M? And I can't imagine Square doing that, but I don't know. There's some mature scenes in this game, but
that's awesome.
I thought for sure we would see things like the cross dressing and stuff like that, but I guess that's going to come later. But during that whole
I
battle sequence, I couldn't believe I heard those 3 words. I was like, oh, all right.
There's not censorship enough in the world for Barrett to get it down to a teen rating.
Yeah. The thing is, he's a little different in this version of the game because if you listen to a lot of his dialogue, because they exchange a lot of pieces of dialogue during the battle, he's very,
Yeah.
very he's very like he's not very serious. He's constantly joking and he's taunting the enemy, saying things like, "Oh, you want a little bit more of this?" and stuff like that. And like it's like the Barrett that I know from the original, and maybe
Yeah.
it's a personal thing, but he's very, only says a
Very
few.
energetic.
Very well. He
I-
usually only says a few words, and he's very serious. He doesn't like a lot of joking. He wants you to take the situation very seriously, and he doesn't like a lot of horseplay. So it was very weird to see this, like, he's kind of tossing jokes out and stuff. It's a little bit different interpretation of the character. Not necessarily a bad thing, but not what I expected.
I really like the banter between Barrett
Yeah,
and Cloud while
I
fighting
thought-
the Guard Scorpion.
Well, that's kind of what I was referencing. Yeah.
I thought it was great, but I also thought it was great that like when like Cloud leans down to activate the bomb, then the Guard Scorpion comes out and Barrett turns to Cloud and points the gun arm at him and says like "damn double crosser" or something like that.
Yeah,
And I thought that
that was great.
that was a really nice touch because like in the original game when sort of why like when they get into the reactor in the beginning, the Cloud and Barrett has a conversation, right? And Barrett kind of explains to Cloud what the reactor is doing, and I always interpreted that as not really Barrett explaining it as much as he's kind of guilt tripping Cloud. He's like, dude, you used to work for these tools and they're doing this to the planet and blah blah blah. And then Cloud says he doesn't care, and then Barrett says, "You're coming with me. I'll keep my eye on you," right? Because it's kind of implied he doesn't trust Cloud, right? This is just some sellsword that that he hired because Tifa asked him to, right? And
Mhm.
the fact that he's actually keeping an eye on Cloud and he thinks Cloud double crossed him in that moment, and he's like, "Fuck, dude, what did you just do?" Right? I felt like that was that kind of. It's like they're building on a lot of those cues from the original game and fleshing them out, and I thought that was actually really smart. That was actually very good, like well done.
Yeah, I
like
mean,
that.
if you're greatly expanding on this game, I'm sure every aspect's going to get expanded on too. Like the tension between Cloud and Barrett. I mean, it was definitely there in the original, so being expanded more upon is, I think, is a good thing.
And there were just a lot of nice touches, like Cloud getting picked up by the guard Scorpion, and then Barrett saves his ass, and he's like, "Yeah, you better be grateful for that, right?" And like, yeah, I just felt like that's cool. They're kind of building up a relationship between the characters in the gameplay, and that's something I've really looked for in a lot of RPGs. I like that in the last story. That's one of the reasons that's one of my favorite RPGs.
Oh yeah. They like there's already uniqueness in characters, and that Barrett excels in taking down more aerial enemies or enemies that may have like a special guard.
Yeah, during the guard scorpion fight, Cloud actually says he's all yours, and he just kind of guards while the scorpion's crawling up the wall, and Barrett's just sitting there
Yeah.
firing. So I thought that
Mhm.
was an interesting way to take advantage of the fact that he does have a gun arm. So I like that type of stuff, and I think the gameplay here is what really shined for this presentation.
Oh, so good! It
Yeah.
looked so good. Like that's exactly the battle system I wanted.
Yeah, I hope every character like has some kind of advantage. Like Barrett can
Yeah.
hit the enemies far away. Maybe Cloud can block heavy attacks that other characters can't block or something like that. Like that's a good way to make the characters more memorable is if they all play differently in some way.
But
Right.
Yeah, that's
You
the
saw
first thing
that-
that popped in my head was
Yeah.
how does each character going to be unique?
But you actually saw that in the command menu that now they have magic, and then they have items, and then they have abilities. So I'm
Abilities,
guessing
yeah.
that all the characters have like a on top of the materials, you have like a unique skill tree or something for each character that you
Yep.
access through the abilities. Seems reasonable. So you have like special character specific skills as well.
I saw Barrett had a skill that was like steel skin or something, and he used it and he like powered up. So
Yeah,
like that's not an ability from the original game, like not at
yeah.
all.
It's not tied to materia, probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just loved it. I loved the way they handled it, like just with the bullet time thing when you can select the commands, and they even have manual targeting, right, where you pick the spell and then you pick the enemy with like manually, which means that they can keep all of the snappiness and the target fun that you had with the original game, right? If you want to throw a Phoenix down on Ginatak and stuff like that, you can probably do that
Mhm.
in this game, right?
Mhm.
So
I was really happy to see that. I didn't think they would go that far. So that was really, really cool how you can just freeze the frame and make your decision. I really like that a lot. Something tells me there's a part I feel like there's a portion of the fan base here that sees stuff like that. They get really excited, but then it comes down to, are you actually going to use that? And I don't know. I guess it's something I'd have to get my hands on to see. But a lot of times, these games will, like 15 had a wait mode, for example. No one ever used a wait mode. Final Fantasy 12 would let you play almost turn-based style. Nobody played it like that. So I think that, I don't know, it might be something that we like, but once you actually get your hands on it and see how it plays, you just end up playing the game more action-based anyways.
FF15
I
though, it felt like a band-aid that turned
yeah.
because it didn't feel like
Mhm.
it was part of the game at all.
I felt like it
and
was
made
kind
the
of a
game
bonus feature. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the thing that's what was special about this is that the guy who was talking during the demonstration said that the other characters won't do commands unless you give it to them. They will only attack and move
Mm.
around. If you want them to use their ATB bars, you actually have to either administer the commands manually or you have to change the character. So it means that it's basically a command system for all intents and purposes, except for like the melee combat in between charges, right?
That's interesting that they're not going to implement some kind of AI type feature or some kind of gambit setup where they'll do basic things if you don't want to do that.
Well, presumably they can handle themselves on like a basic level, right?
Just
With
kind of
attacking and
attack.
Did
defending
they
and dodging.
show
Yeah,
you can switch between characters during
Mhm.
tactical mode?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
They
so
showed that finally.
they showed both. You
Pretty
you can change character and you can also administer commands without changing characters.
I would like to see, even though we just saw 15 minutes of how that worked, I want to see somebody actually just playing the game and kind of experimenting with it and figuring it out and seeing how that works. Because it looks very flashy and the pacing of battles seems really, really nice. But it is an E3 presentation, so they're not going to show moments where it feels cloggy and sluggish. So I just want to see it actually play out. But looks, from what I saw, I really liked it.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
thought
don't
everything
think
was good.
I have any real major problems with the combat. I am interested to know how the stagger system is going to work, but
It looked
I imagine it's going to be just chaining the right combos together with other characters.
Very Final
Probably
Fantasy
gets it off.
13. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it showed at one point like 160% damage, like when the enemy is in stagger, and they seem immobile, like they can't do anything.
That might be a big requirement in the game because did you notice that like enemies were, or like at least like enemies we saw, it took Cloud a little while to take them down. Like in the original game, it's like 1 to 2 swipes are gone, and this one you had to do multiple swipes and ability to take down a soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like maybe knowing how to stagger ahead of time works to your advantage.
Well, I noticed at the very first gameplay they show here is the very first mission, the bombing mission, and it's the part where Barrett is running away in the back and leaves Cloud to fend for himself and fight the two soldiers. He goes up and hits them, and he hits both of them with like one sword strike. And we actually see some like hit stun on them, and he like launches one of them into the air with just his basic attack
Yeah.
combo. So that was interesting because we didn't see anything like that in the first trailer. He was
Yeah.
fighting stronger enemies that didn't flinch from being hit by the Buster sword.
And that was
Yeah,
one
but
of the
then he was-
observations, that we had, was that when they hit the enemies, they didn't really react. They just kind of acted like it didn't even phase them. So this
Yeah.
seems that
Maybe they fixed it.
At least the Shinra grunts in the very beginning, like he just goes up to him right away, one hack, and then, like one's on the ground to the right, and the other's like getting juggled up into the air. So looks pretty cool.
Looks great.
You get lots of really close shots with the materia and the sword, which I really
And
thought was
Barrett's
cool. Yeah.
gun as well. You
I'm
can
a bit
clearly see it.
disappointed by the magic thing. There's not enough greens. I wanted like a more like explosive kind of like the original, you know.
More
You see in the
particles.
trailer, it was Jesse who gave Cloud the materia. So I guess maybe that's changing too.
I
Like
wonder
maybe
if
she
that's
teaches him, or she or Barrett asks him.
Well, he
Like,
has a materia before that though. I think she gives him another one, so that's like your
oh,
additional
okay.
materia, I suppose. He
I
already
wonder
has
if that
one.
could even be like a side quest if they're expanding Midgar, right? It's like you have
Well,
optional mission, go help Jesse with like this side
yeah.
objective, and your reward is that materia she gives you.
Well, you're driving the motorcycle with Jesse, so I suppose there has to be some kind of side mission with Jesse because, like, where
Yeah.
at what time would you be driving a motorcycle with Jesse?
Yeah,
But
Maybe
like, that's
maybe that will be a mode of travel you get in the game since they are fleshing Midgar out so much that maybe at some point you will be able to traverse the game with the motorcycle, and that will be kind of similar to, hey, you got an airship, you get around, well, here's your motorcycle.
gummy ship. Those are the gummy ship levels between the areas.
Oh,
Right after
dude, that would just be terrible. It'd be like, okay, we need a little breathing room between Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Numero, you can't make them both at the same time.
But I need my gummy ships in my games.
Yeah, man. A little side tangent here, but at the end of the presentation, we saw Sephiroth, and he's kind of taunting Cloud. You know what I got from that? I really didn't like it, but it reminded me a lot of Kingdom Hearts. The way he was taunting Cloud, and just the fact that he was trying to get Cloud to hold on to his anger, and it just felt like it could have been extracted straight from Kingdom Hearts 3, that portion of dialogue. It seemed very strange to me, but
I
I don't
was
think
kind of.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I bored you. It's the stuff,
No,
the lag. It's the time lag.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just thought it was interesting that this is the second time I think I've heard Sephiroth speak, and it feels like Cloud is seeing Sephiroth, but he's hearing somebody else speak. It's like Sephiroth is speaking somebody else's words, right? Because he says, "I need you to run away, Cloud," or something like that. It's like, why? Why does Sephiroth need Cloud to run away? Right? That doesn't seem to make a whole lot
Doesn't
of
he
sense. Like,
want Cloud to pursue him?
yeah, exactly. He doesn't want him to run away. And then, in the previous trailers, he said, "What was it? Like our planet is disappearing, Cloud," which sounds very like strange because like Sephiroth doesn't care about the planet, and he's the one who wants to destroy it. So like he's talking about our planet and it disappearing. It sounds like he's echoing Barrett or something like that. So it's almost as if Cloud is superimposing Sephiroth, the vision of Sephiroth, but he's hearing somebody else speak. So I wonder if they're gonna have. I don't know where they're going with that, but it doesn't seem like it's straight up like he's straight up seeing Sephiroth. It's like an aborted something in between kind of thing.
Well, I do think it's yeah, like you said, some kind of hallucination or some kind of manifestation of his own mind. I think that's pretty clear because obviously he disappears once Cloud tries to hit him with the sword.
Yeah.
But I don't really like the idea that he's
Showing him off. Yeah.
showing him off that much. And I guess if this game were to take place entirely in Midgar and they're going to flesh that entire bit out, they have to make the decision of, okay, who's going to be the villain of this game? And I guess it would be Shinra. But, Sephiroth is such an iconic character with this game that it would be a little strange, I think, from their perspective, to have the entire Final Fantasy VII Remake first game and not really have Sephiroth in it at all. So maybe that's their way of, showing people that, okay, Sephiroth is still here. He's still in the game. You'll still get to see him, but I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I don't think you really need a centralized villain to make a full game out of this. Like the Shinra Corporation in general can be the villain.
Yeah, that's what I think would be the better choice, but I'm trying to reason why they felt the need to reveal Sephiroth so much in this first game.
Fan demand.
That's
service.
exactly what it comes down to, I think.
I wonder if it's just like Nomura's interpretation or what he got out of the original game. Like, because like you said, it's very Kingdom Hearts-esque, right, with Sephiroth and how they're kind of treating him. And it makes me wonder if
because he could
like
almost
what Nomura really remembered from the original was like the rivalry between Cloud and Sephiroth, when really in the first part of the game that's like way in the background, and it's more about Avalanche versus Shinra. But since Nomura's the director, he's like, we got to get Sephiroth in there earlier, you know, like because he
because
really wants to
my
push him as
favorite
the
character.
focus, you know.
It goes
Yeah.
back to what we asked before, was Nomura designed the characters, but does he understand the characters and the scenes and everything that happened? Like,
Right.
why it's so significant to hide Sephiroth until the time is right?
because
Because
the go ahead. I'm sorry, I
it's
keep interrupting.
it's paced so well that like you first hear of Sephiroth, and then you're introduced in the fashion that like a whole trail of blood up to President Shinra, who has a katana in his back. And then when you finally do get to see Sephiroth, it's not the one that's lingering right now. It's in the past before he becomes who he is. So
Right.
that just intrigues you even more. And the fact that he's like level 50 and you're level 1 shows off how powerful he is in that flashback. So
Well,
when we actually see him for the first time, we just don't know what's going to happen. We got, you get goosebumps just seeing him. It's like, so when you start introducing this stuff right now, like it kind of takes that tension away. It's kind of like a horror movie where they go ahead and show you the monster at the beginning,
For sure. Yeah.
and like you don't feel scared of it anymore.
in the original game, and I agree with everything you just said. In the original game, you don't even the first time playing the game, there's not even a lot of context whether Sephiroth is a bad person for the first couple hours of the game. The couple times that he's mentioned, you know, he went rogue and stuff like that, and he breaks you out of prison. You know, they haven't really told you the evil things he's done yet. So there's not even this idea that maybe he is a bad person. So as a player, you're almost mesmerized by this character the same way Cloud was when he was younger. And for that way, you kind of connect with Sephiroth the way that Cloud did when he was a kid. And with the way they're framing Sephiroth now, with him, you know, taunting Cloud through the game and, you know, stretching his hand out almost like he's somebody from Organization 13. You know, he might as well just be wearing the cloak. It's very clear that this guy is not a good guy. You know?
Yeah.
They're gonna go ham-fisted with that.
So
And might as well give him an evil laugh.
It's unfortunate. Yeah.
Like, could they have like shown something else there? Like, because in the original game, it's like kind of like moments of hearing Zack in his mind.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't they just like focus on that instead? Just like you don't need to show Zack or anything. Just hear those times in your head, and that's just it comes and it pays off later in the game.
yeah, well, and here's the other part too. When they have that little sequence where Aerith has the little black thing that swivels around her, and Cloud sees it too. Like Cloud, part of the reason Cloud loses his mind is because he's the only one experiencing these things from his perspective, and he doesn't know what's going on. He can't piece it together. The fact that somebody else has a shared experience, I think, would give more gravity and weight to the fact that this isn't just him. So it seems strange the way they're taking this. Obviously, we haven't seen the way they're doing it. Maybe they could execute it well, but from what I'm seeing, it's giving me, oh, I don't know, guys. I don't know.
That scene that you just mentioned, where it was the trailer before today, right?
Right. I think they showed a little bit of
Where-
it today too.
Where Aerith is saying like, "Oh, help me," and then there's like all these black clouds swirling around them, and they're kind of freaking out. They don't know what's going on.
That seems weird for Eris also.
Yeah, that's easily my least favorite thing.
And they
Yeah.
closed the
they've shown
trailer
of
out with that.
anything.
Yeah.
Like of anything so far. Not only is it like not necessary, but it's like don't mess with that innocent little moment, right? Where they just bump into each other for the first time. Like yeah, like you have to insert some greater evil. Like why choose that moment? Like of all the times in the
Yeah.
game,
It wasn't
Like, it's
necessary.
very
really
poor
bad one.
timing, in my opinion. Yeah,
It's extremely poor because like it doesn't make any logistical sense. Like if you think in terms of a traditional fantasy narrative, you'll often have like the boy meets girl moment, right? And generally speaking, when two strangers meet each other, right, they just say hello and goodbye, and they just go their separate ways, right? So what plot usually do is that they have like a catalyst, right, where the girl gets chased by some evil thing, so there's a reason for the guy to stick around. So they stick around long enough for like them to be tied together for the rest of the plot, right?
But they don't stick around at that moment,
Yeah,
right? They
that's the
leave.
problem, right? Because Cloud is moving on, right? Because he just
Yeah.
blew up a fucking reactor. So my question is like, okay, so these things show up, and he's like, "Whoa, what the is going on?" Right? And she's like, "Help me!" And then he saves her, and he's like, "Cheers, girl!" And he goes off and jumps on train. It's like, what?
See you later. Yeah.
Yeah, see you later, alligator. Finished. Like
This
that's
guy's
It's also weird.
such a wild
that-
character.
Ugh.
Go ahead.
It's also weird that the scene where it's like Aerith, Tifa, and Cloud are together this is clearly after the Don Corneo mansion when they get dropped into the sewer and fighting the Sahagins. It's like in that scene also they're like, Aerith, get back, and in the battle screen it's only Cloud and Tifa. It's like, so how are they handling Aerith this time? Because she's been battle capable always. I mean, she's been she's been dodging Shinra and the Turks her whole life, and she's lived in the slums. She knows how to take care of herself. Like, so why are they just like depicting her like this? I don't know.
A little concerning.
kind of annoying.
Yeah.
This guy has had the worst day, right? I mean, he goes and blows up a reactor, and then what do you do after you decide to blow up a reactor? Go buy some flowers. While you're buying some flowers, you get attacked by some kind of demonic storm that like circles your first encounter with this very cute girl. And it's just, and then he has to like, he misses his train and he has to go like, I don't know. I'm just playing here, but yeah, they're going to flesh this out some, and they're going to change things with the game. They're going to, if it's really going to be that much content, they're going to have to really pad some things out. One thing I did notice that I did like was that the Avalanche gang is actually having some moments where they're taking the gravity of what they've done in and asking, was this really something we should have done? When they're showing where they blew up the reactor, they're seeing all the damage to the city. They're doubting that this was actually done by them. But I'm glad that they are having that moment where they get to say, okay, is this really something we should be doing? Because that's a very horrendous act, to blow something up like that, especially in 4K. That's going to be even more obvious.
Yeah. I was a little worried that they were going to kind of brush that to the side and think that, like, well, we don't want to depict our characters as eco-terrorists, right?
Mm-hmm.
In today's political climate, and they might tiptoe around that. But it looks like they're being more.
I think they should look at it from both sides and kind of like create a gray area from there, because Avalanche, like even Barrett says himself that like, there's going to be casualties for doing stuff like this, but the ends justify the means. So, if you look at it realistically, like Shinra is an electric company that provides like power and stuff for the people and stuff like that. I mean, there's obviously like the lower plate stuff where they don't care as much about down there as they do with like the upper plate, but like they're looked upon as like the good guys and such also, and in the way they are, because they are providing this type of lifestyle for people that makes it much easier. So you can kind of look at it from both angles. It's like there are good people on both sides. So like, and there's bad people on both sides also, prospectively, if you look at it from one to another. So you can kind of look at, because when they blow up that reactor, they did technically kill innocent people.
Yeah, and Shinra is a major employer of the city, so just like you alluded to, there's going to be a lot of innocent people that aren't really bad people. They just need a job.
Yeah, even the original game, Barrett's like taunting this man who's just going to his job because he has to make a living. He's like, yeah, I work for Shinra, but I'm just an everyday guy. I have to feed my family and such. and then Bear's just going on about like you're working for pure evil, and it's like
It's funny when the guy's like sitting crying when Bear like
He's like,
ostracizes him and he punches the seat. He's like, "Don't!" And the guy's like, "Oh no!" That
the
makes
guy
me
that's
laugh
like,
so bad.
should never take the late train. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure they're
Say
gonna
something.
dive into that too.
That that scene needs to be in the game. Like Bear just going off on some random dude in the suit, being totally unhinged. That would be funny.
Yeah.
I love Bear. He's the best character.
Well,
Preposterous.
since we're
I
speaking
like
of
it.
characters, I guess we can
Talk about
bring
Tifa.
this up now. All right, so what did everyone think about Tifa?
They reduced her breast size. It's fine.
Oh, no.
I think they're just more.
I think it's
realistic.
reasonable. It doesn't make me upset. I don't care. But I thought she looked really. I liked her the style of her character. It's very very traditional to what we've seen in the past, and her gameplay portions looks really really fun. I really want to play as Tifa because it just looks very very entertaining to play. But what'd you all think?
I didn't see Dolphin Kick.
Oh,
She did she did her somersault attack though. Which was,
Yeah, and like launched them up into the air.
It's funny because she has some kind of weird. It's funny because her attacks look like a combination of like regular kickboxing and Ling Xiaoyu's moveset from Tekken, which I found pretty interesting. I like that. Ling Xiaoyu is like my favorite
I
female
like
character.
this
in Tekken.
new design. It doesn't take away too much of the original design. They just added a little more to it, but like the skirt looks more like a skirt now. She wears like some kind of black body armor underneath her shirt now. But really, besides that, that's like the biggest differences.
Or like a sports bra or a sports top or something.
Yeah, something like that too. Her red eyes are there. That's good because they took those away in the Advent Children. That like made her hair like look almost black. And that, and they took away a lot from her. And so it kind of looks like they brought like well, I need to check again, but I know they brought the eyes back. I wonder if they brought like the chestnut hair back.
They released some new like kind of like desktop backgrounds or something for the remake with the different characters that I found, and there's actually a really nice one of Barrett without his glasses, so he's probably going to take those off after a while.
that's probably good. It's dark out.
He looks pretty cool without the glasses.
That'll be entertaining.
And it was nice to see him interact with Marlene. Too.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah.
How'd y'all feel about when it's kind of 3/4 way through the presentation, the camera zooms in on Aerith and she's just sitting there praying or whatever, almost like the beginning of the game, and the camera zooms out on Midgar and really shows the scale of the city and the amount of detail. I thought that was really
pretty insane.
Yeah,
I was wowed.
I really really liked that shot. That was really really cool.
It looked great.
You could see the cars driving.
How big the game is probably going to be. With like how much they just showed.
If that's all playable areas, that would blow my mind.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, I'm really, really curious what the story's going to be for them to show that much. So I'm really excited to see what else they're going to tell us. Because right now,
Final Fantasy VII Remake Star Citizen.
Then again, it does kind of make me ask also, like, or make me think that this could be an on rails game too.
Like, on a train rails?
Well, if you want to throw that pun in, yeah. But like, you go to the, you do the bombing mission, and then you know, do a linear path to, like, to Seventh Heaven, and like you're just going from like scene to scene. Like they didn't show anything to show that like everything is interconnected. So I'm still worried that this is going to be like an on rails stage type of thing, and you can just like shop at random like places like while you're at those certain spots.
The game's playing itself. Well, it's playing itself.
We do get some shots of Cloud just like
walking
like around the city, but it's very short, and it isn't clear if it's like you can walk from A to B or A to C and that's it, like you enter a new zone, or if it is more
Yeah,
open. You can't tell.
I mean, he is just kind of running around the city a little bit, but it almost and there's some shots of him walking down the train, but it could just be very Final Fantasy 13 like where it's okay, here's a city kind of, but you're really walking down a sidewalk and then you're into another sequence of battles again. We don't
There's
know.
only one way to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe do a kind of meet in the middle type of thing. I hope they don't go to the extent of FF13. Like you're kind of on rails through it, but like by near the end of the game, you can like backtrack the different areas.
Well, this
Maybe you can do
portion,
side quests, or maybe let you backtrack anytime you want
yeah,
and do side quests if you missed any and you want to go back and do it.
this portion of the game in the original was fairly linear, to be fair, but it did have moments where it would break up the monotony. For example, when you had to go cross dress, so you had to do all these little mini games and stuff to, get the best outfit or whatever. There was opportunities to kind of do some other things, but it still by and large was fairly linear until it did open up and you got to the overworld and it felt more open and you could do some different things.
I
I
mean,
think
you're
the big
still
difference.
ultimately going linear in the game in its entirety. You can break away to the side and do stuff, but ultimately you are going in a linear path in the game.
Yeah. I mean, what
I,
there's things like the tower with the bird and stuff, and you got to defend the tower before Junon and things like that that kind of break it up. Or you can get a chocobo and you can choose to get the chocobo or grind and fight the lake snake or
Midgar
whatever.
told them.
Yeah, my bad. I said lake snake. I like my name better.
The almighty lake snake.
I don't have a problem with linearity per se. I just don't want a game to feel like it's linear, and that's the thing. Like making games is about selling illusions, right? It's about giving people a feeling of being something like the meme goes. Like, does it feel like you're Spider-Man, right? So that's the clue, right? And so the question isn't, is this an open world game? The question is, does it feel like an open world game? And that's the thing about Final Fantasy 7. It's not an open world game, but it feels like an open world game because it gives you these vistas, right? And you spend time kind of running around in towns. You can talk to NPCs and set up your gear, and um, you can backtrack a little bit if there's something you feel as if you missed out on, and it's not always entirely clear which direction you're supposed to go in and stuff like that. And I think that's important.
Well,
When it,
go ahead. Sorry, keep going.
like when you literally feel like you're running down the hallway and you're not really engaging with the environment, and you always feel as if there's like a guiding hand just pushing you along, then that's when I have a problem with it, because that feels like I'm a hamster in a hamster wheel, right? And that's not a feeling that I want to have when I'm playing like an adventure game, essentially, right?
I
And
wouldn't feel that'd be too hard to add that side content. Just something to just steer you away to the side. Like even if
Yeah.
your goal is ultimately linear, it's like I don't think it'd be too hard to like find reasons to go back to the gold saucer, or find like chocobo like mini games, or like there's side quests in towns that can take you to dungeons that never done before, or that were not in
Yeah.
the original game.
I would be super happy if we got all the way up to the gold saucer in the first game. That would be fantastic. But I know that was just an example. One thing the original did really well, I felt like, was that okay, it was very linear because you had to take a certain set of events. There wasn't many other things you could do, but the game kept unraveling the same areas, right? So you would get the buggy, and then all of a sudden you could cross rivers, and then you would get the airplane, but it could only go along the shoreline, and so you could get to some new areas. But it was areas you could see before you just couldn't get to. And then finally, you get the airship, and you can get to all those other areas you couldn't get to. It did a very good job of letting you see something that you can't currently get to, but then later it gives you an opportunity to say, okay, now you can go there and you can visit that spot. So I think that's one of the reasons the game kind of feels more open than it is, because at the end of the day, there's not much you can do from Cosmo Canyon forward, right? You're either going forward or you're going backwards. There's not too many other options, but when you can come back to other spots that you couldn't get to before, it just feels more open.
Yeah, the illusion of exploration. And then, like, even to the game's credit, like, you don't have to go straight to the thing. You can decide to explore, like, around the world map. And when you do, you accidentally stumble onto something like Wutai,
Hmm.
Hmm.
which is like a whole major side quest in itself that you don't have to do right away. Or right there, you can do it later. But
Yeah,
like, it's a really cool thing to discover, like, ahead of time, instead of like going later when it's like more mandatory if you have Yuffie in your party.
yeah. Also, like Zach's hometown, Gongaga, is like totally optional, right? But if you go there, you get some extra story content. Like if you bring Eris in your party, and then you have like a battle with the Turks there, totally skippable. Like if you don't go in there, you don't see it.
And
But yeah,
secret characters too. You could miss both of them. So,
hmm
Heian, I know you're on a time schedule. Heian
Yeah.
lives in
Well, I'm gonna-
Japan, so he's currently on a lunch break or something at work. So you have to
where
get
I'm,
back to that.
I'm heading to work in a
Oh, he's
moment,
heading to
so
work. So
I'm gonna grab a little nap, so I'm not totally exhausted for that, and then I'm gonna be off. So I'm just gonna have to say goodbye now, and I'll come back and watch the rest of your discussion later.
cool.
All
Okay,
right.
guys.
All right, take care, man.
See ya.
Thank you,
Chill out. Yeah.
Daisy. All right, so go back to what you were saying. Oh, so there's missable stuff. We got the secret characters. You said Wutai. There's secret scenes you can miss.
Yeah, I think the point was like those are all kinds of little things they can put in there to make the game not feel linear, even
Mhm.
though to progress the story, there's only one location you can visit, right, to proceed. But there's kind of like, what do you call it, forks in the road. You go down that fork a little bit to Wutai or whatever, but then you got to come back and continue.
Like, you're rewarded for straying from the main path.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even have to add too much in. Like, especially if it's gonna be like a zone structure, you can find like secret zone lines like
Yeah.
within a map, and like you discover some dungeon or side quest, or discover like treasure, like materia, stuff like that. I mean, there's so many things you can do to like break the monotony of the linearity.
Especially in Midgar, because it's such a grimy and large city. I can see all sorts of back alleys and little sewer ways and stuff where you could go down there and find all sorts of things to explore and kind of break the attention if this game ends up being primarily Midgar, which it looks like it's going to be.
Yeah. And like we saw, like there's some kind of motorcycle mission with Jesse. So that's like mini game essentially to try and break up just the um, you know,
Going
fight
forward.
cutscene, fight
Yeah.
cutscene, fight cutscene if it does turn out that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now that you guys bring it up, I feel like that's something that's how we'll dive into Avalanche more. Is like doing the side quests. Like, Barrett is like, okay, you three go out and do the mission I told you to do, and then like
Yeah.
you can find them in Midgar and join them like on the quests. Of course, I think they'll be more pivotal to the main story, but I think there might be moments like that also. Like, especially if like you're about to do the mission that requires Tifa and Barrett. So, and then the other characters are off doing something else for that small while, but just a few examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, when do y'all think we're going to get some more information?
Probably by next week.
You think we're going to get
You're
another
gonna, you're
trailer?
gonna have you're gonna have interviewers.
Oh yeah, we'll have interviewers for sure.
Interviewing them, and they're probably going to try to press them for some questions. I don't know how much information we'll get from it.
Thing is, we got that demo, and I'm very curious how big that demo is and what it actually reveals.
It's probably gonna be the bombing mission.
Just the opening bombing mission, but even that would be pretty revealing because if they are padding this game out that much, how long is that portion going to be? Is it even going to begin at the same place that it started in the original game? Are we going to start a little bit before that? Will we get to see the intro sequence? I mean, there's a lot of things that could reveal.
I actually think the kiosks are going to be separated. I think they're going to have different parts of the demo available in the kiosk to play because okay, so you have lines and lines of people waiting for this thing, and they're only going to get about 3 minutes of playtime to play it, unless you're like a journalist who probably get like some special um, back room like demo access. Like people waiting in line who want to play it are only going to get about 3 minutes, so they're probably going to have like like kiosks that show off like combat against like normal enemies
Mm.
or like unique situations, and then probably could be another set of kiosks that are specifically like the guard scorpion fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I went to E3 several years ago, I got to demo Final Fantasy 15, and they had the Titan fight was the demo. So I imagine they could do the same thing, but just like with the guard scorpion. If they need to move that line and get people going, that guard scorpion fight looks like it's probably 5 minutes. They could even like reduce the health of it if they're worried like that people will
That-
take too long with it.
yeah,
Something like
that's
that.
another thing they do. They drastically drop the difficulty to
Yeah.
make it feel like one, you accomplish something, and two, it gets you out of there quick. So
Yeah.
chances less chance that you lose and want to try again.
hmm
Yeah, because if they're just having that quick window, I mean, you can't really get the full experience of okay, well, this was difficult, but then I had to learn how the system, and after really learning how everything operates, then I was able to beat the boss. You're not going to have enough time to go through that cycle.
Right.
That makes sense.
And FF7 Remake is definitely going to be one of the longest lines at E3. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Unless Nintendo announces something crazy tomorrow that gets everyone in the line to want to play it.
It would take like a Mario Odyssey 2 or something like that to
Or
pull
a whole
people away
brand
from
new Zelda.
FF7, I think. Yeah.
Like I love Link's Awakening,
Oh yeah, I'm
and
sure
they're going to
that'll be
show that
there.
remake
Yeah.
off tomorrow. Definitely, like I'll be watching that. I don't think, but that line will not be anywhere compared to FF7 remakes. I mean, that like it's just been blue balling ever since 2015. People want to get their hands on it some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form.
I think the biggest things that I'm really anxious to hear more of from these interviews is go back to the beginning of this podcast, the Blu-ray deal. Can you give us some more information on the fact that this is supposed to be 2 Blu-rays? What did you mean by that? Is this actually all Midgar? But then also with these later trailers, if they are fleshing the story out, I want to see some more heartwarming scenes with Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, because primarily they've still kind of maintained their same role in the original game. They've added a little bit more, but if they're really fleshing these characters out and they're going to be primary party members in this game, I'd like to see some scenes with Jesse or Wedge or Biggs where you're actually like, what's their struggle in the game? How are we helping them through the course of this game? And what's the kind of character development we can expect with these characters? Or are they kind of just, part B characters that are just there to service a specific scene and that's it? And we're going to focus still on our main cast from the original. It seems to me they're fleshing these characters out more. So I do want to see more about that in future trailers.
I feel like these are going to be very obvious questions that are brought up because they like it feels weird to begin with that they don't even divulge in this information. Like they don't even like really specify what they mean by about like the 2 discs. It's like, oh, the game is so big that we had to put on 2 discs. It's like, but okay, is there content on the second disc? Is it an installation disc?
Was he just trying to be nostalgic? Oh, remember Final Fantasy VII? It was on 3 discs. Yeah, it's back. This game is so big. We need 2 discs.
We took the first 5 hours of the game and put it on 2 Blu-ray discs. This is how big the episodic game is going to be. It makes me wonder, like, if the entire thing takes place in Midgar and how they're going to approach the second game. Like,
That's for pacing wise, that means we're gonna have like 10 games.
Well,
you can
Unless you
take
have,
a lot of the adventuring aspect out if it's going to be very linear.
which I
I
won't
guess
like.
technically, I mean, I won't like it either, but that is possible. You can make it feels like it's going to be like 4 parts now.
Yeah, because Midgar would be one part, and leaving that, I would guess that the second part would end at Junon or Junon.
I think they could go as far as Eris dying.
Well, I think they could do that too, but I didn't think they would stretch out Midgar to 2 discs.
At this point, man, I just don't know.
Like the trip to Call might be a game at this point. Like,
I wonder.
The Midgar's Golem's the final boss.
Yeah, this is like pure speculation.
That's the point too. We're not really seeing chocobos in this yet, man. I don't know, man. I feel like this can't be just solely Midgar. There's got to be more. There has to be more.
I wonder if part 2 they're going to try and bring in more of the open world, right? And because of that, like I think you guys were saying on a previous podcast that Unreal Engine is not really built like to develop a huge open world game, right?
Traditionally,
it can, but it's not really its strength,
right?
So I wonder if they would use their Luminous engine like for part 2, so it's a completely separate game. But they can use a lot of the assets like from the first one. Put them
if they go by a yearly rate of the game,
they want to get it out quick.
They gotta get it out quick, and completely switching to an different engine would be almost the same as completely starting the game.
Well, they'd have to be developing both at the same time, basically.
Yeah,
for it to work.
Here's the case for that argument. I'm kind of leaning towards Eric's take on it too, but if I were to make a case for it, I know that one of the biggest problems they had with the Luminous engine was getting it to run on the PS4, that this engine was so powerful. I saw one quote where, they had to keep lowering the performance of the engine, like what they could potentially do with it, to the point where it was running at about 18% of what the actual engine could do just to have it run on the PS4. And even then it was still having trouble because the PS4 just wasn't strong enough. So maybe they could look at the PS5 and say, okay, this bottleneck on development has been lifted. We've got some more experience with this engine. Let's actually use it for the second game. But I just have to think just what Eric said, they want that second part to come out quick. If this first part's coming out in March 2020, they want the second part to come out in early 2021, I would imagine.
I would hope so.
We can hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can hope for sure.
But then, like you're saying, if the first game is all Midgar and they're still planning on delivering the rest of the story, then you're looking at like 4 or 5 parts if they keep the same.
That's and that's
pacing, right?
That's too many parts because that's just that's just a gamble because it's going to come to the point where excitement for this game is going to peter out a little bit and it's not going to be as appealing as it once was. And eventually one of these parts is going to get screwed and they're going to cheese it. They're going to streamline it and they're going to go through like half the game in like, one episode. And it's going to feel very, very quick and pacing and very unsatisfying to drag it out that far. I mean, for one game to be Midgar to go that slow and pacing and then suddenly just start blasting through stuff, it's going to feel weird, I think.
Yeah. It will.
Oh. But
I wonder if they'll take certain shortcuts, like to get through the story faster at this point, like post Midgar. Like perhaps you have the characters just keep their vehicles that they use to escape Midgar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they just drive all the way to Calm, right? And then it's like you're in Calm now. You do the flashback and whatever else is going on there.
That's
and
just
then
a cutscene for them driving, and then that's kind of like it fades out, and it's like, okay, well, that was the drive.
They arrived, yeah, essentially. And then who knows? Like you take a train just like to Junon or whatever, like just to get through, like to get you there. Like they might have to do that if they want to keep this as 3 parts, but still get through the whole story until all the significant events. So that would be disappointing, but it looks like that's. I don't see what else they could do.
Well, Katase just promised we will not be disappointed.
What a terrible thing to say. Like,
Dude, he's
the,
the
the
person of
ego to just get up there and be like, no one will be
Yeah,
disappointed with what we do.
the
Like
first thing I
we
said
have
when
it
he
all
said
figured
that.
out. Yeah.
First thing I said when he said that was, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's the man of bold statements. I mean, he said
Yeah.
everything we liked in the original will be in the remake. That's a bold statement because there's so many things I like in the original that are not
Yeah.
in there. You know, he said he wants this game to exceed the original and be for current audiences what it was to audiences back in the day. He said this game is not going to disappoint us now. It's just he likes making. He said the game's so big it's going to fit on 2 Blu-rays. He's the man for quotes.
Oh yeah.
He'll say whatever needs to be said to hype everyone up. So, but oh man. So all in all though, like I think that I'm surprised that we got 20 minutes roughly of content for them to show us. But again, I think that I'm at this point I'm more interested in how this story is going to be told and really telling me how they're going to fill out Midgar for a complete game. And that's really what I want to know at this point. And that's what I was hoping they were going to show us here. I am happy we saw Tifa. I'm happy that they actually showed us an entire boss fight. I thought that was really, really cool. I'm happy that they're having a demo that's playable so we can get some more information on that. And I think they're focusing a lot on this gameplay aspect because there was so much concern over the fact that the game wasn't going to be turn-based. You know, maybe that they're trying to kind of ease audiences that know this gameplay is still going to be what you remember. It's just in a different way. But at this point, they gotta start reassuring us about the story here because I'm having concerns.
yeah, that is the ever since this game was first announced in 2015, the number one question has been, how are they going to retell the story? And they still have not told us this. They have not, like, it makes me wonder if they know how this is going to work. Because yeah, if this game is so close to being released at this point, which is about
That's
a
crazy. It's
little over half a year away.
Yeah, it's less than a year away. That's crazy to think about.
And this game has got to be near finished. So they've got to know enough. Like, I don't know why they have to hold information back from us. Like, you can show off more stuff, but let us know how the game works on a fundamental level. And then you can just start showing cool content off after that. I don't
Mhm.
know why they can't just talk about the fundamental level.
Yeah. Dude, that release date too, March 3rd, 2020. That is such a bold release date because typically with Square games is they like to put out a release date and then they like to delay it like 2 months, 2 or 3 months,
Mhm.
but that's going to put them right into another E3 season if they delay this thing. Or it's going to be right before it and it's going to have to compete. If they delayed it a month, it'll have to compete with Cyberpunk, I believe, because that got an April 2020 release date. So that's probably not the best time to release that. So, man, they're really sticking it to it. I thought for sure, you know, they'd give it a January, then they would delay it till March or something like that. So they sound pretty confident.
And so far, it's still a PS4 only game. I didn't see
Surprise.
anywhere where it's going to be like Xbox One or anything. So it still may be a Sony exclusive game.
I think it's a timed exclusive, but I'm not sure because I remember in the State of Play trailer, the narrator at the end says Final Fantasy Remake is coming to the PS4 generation, but it didn't say like exclusive to PlayStation.
Yeah, it
So
could change
that
anytime.
language to me seems like they have it for a year or something, but then it's going to maybe release on all the next gen platforms and PC like
Hmm.
in the
Yeah, like
future.
for FF13, I think they announced it first on PS3. Then, like later down the line, it got announced for 360 also.
Yep.
So it could easily be that too.
Yeah.
But that seems like obvious info also. Like they couldn't even say only on PlayStation 4. Like they
Yeah.
couldn't even say that. It's like
But
what
they,
is
they could say it's going to take 2 Blu-ray discs, but they can't tell us that.
I feel like we just got more of what we already know.
Yep.
I think that sums it up. Like Tifa is probably the biggest surprise.
Well, and they kind of, I think that's the best way to put it. They gave us more of what we already knew, but they kind of solidified some of the things that we thought, that with the ATB bar and the way the battle system functions. All the speculation proved to be right, that this is basically how the battle system is going to focus. And they showed us some outer lying things that we hadn't seen with some spells and stuff like that. They showed us Tifa, but man, we
I mean, I
need a
loved what
story
I
trailer.
saw. I loved what I saw. It's just like, please, sir, can I have some more?
Yeah, the presentation looks great. The combat gameplay looks great, but everything else they're not showing. It makes you wonder, right? It makes you wonder, like, well, is that equally as good as what we're seeing? Because if it is, why didn't they show it?
I wonder if it's like a time constraint thing. Like they have to show off these other games. We only get an hour and 20 minutes. Like I think they were only supposed to be an hour, and they pushed over a few minutes with the Avengers stuff. Like so, they had to like equal time for it. So maybe the time that we get more information is a lot sooner than we think. They're like, okay, well, we need to tell these parts, and we'll let the other information in throughout the rest of E3, and let the interviewers interview us and put it up on the sites. Maybe that's intentional. It's Square Enix, so probably not. But it's just me giving them a little benefit of the doubt.
Right. Well, I have to be honest though, for Square Enix, this presentation, for Square Enix, not for presentations in general, for Square Enix, this wasn't a bad presentation. Generally, I get nervous with Square when they say they're going to make it a big announcement, because in the past that has meant, the second anniversary of 15, that means canceling content. That was an announcement. The 30th anniversary, we're going to announce the release date of Final Fantasy 12 remake or remaster. Not an announcement. $1,000 bottles of wine. I mean, you never know with Square Enix what you're going to get. So at the very least, this wasn't too bad, but I just
I'll
wanted
give
to
them
see
credit.
more.
This was probably the best E3 so far this year.
Yeah.
Like they had a good amount of games to show, and it was like a lot of stuff that we're interested in. Like the Final Fantasy VIII remaster. I was not expecting that.
So
but
for the
I'm
first
glad it's there.
For the first 2 seconds when, music started playing, I thought for just a moment briefly they were announcing a Final Fantasy VIII full like AAA remake. And I was like, no, you're not doing this, are you?
Don't do this.
Like,
don't do this.
Both games simultaneously. Final Fantasy 16's never coming out. Oh, but thank God it's just, it looked a really good trailer though. Like the models look a lot better and everything. So I'll definitely pick that up.
And this isn't a iOS Android game. It's only on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch. And I probably know why. And it's probably because of those limit breaks. Like they would have to redesign the limit breaks to work on a touch screen, which would probably be very annoying.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I think these are built in the mind for actually consoles. So it may be a real good remaster, or it could be a very bare bones one, but the character models look better. I'm going to go for the latter.
I'm just hoping they fix the gameplay a little bit.
Probably
You
not.
asked too much.
But I hope.
You asked.
I hope so, but probably not. They might balance it enough so you can't get tier 3 level spells at the very beginning of the game.
It's just going to be easier if they have the fast forward feature. Because then you can just draw magic at like 3 times the speed.
Let me tell you how much you can exploit that game. You can get Kiragas at the beginning of the game. Put every one with a good amount of Kiragas, and get them all into yellow HP status.
4,000 HP in the
they
first hour.
Have enough HP to like survive just fine. And you keep hitting triangle, the switch turns. That resets the chance to get limit breaks. So you can constantly keep getting limit breaks on characters and just completely demolish anything in your way.
Yeah.
in that game. It's so easy to exploit. Like it's like FF2 levels of exploit.
Yeah, there's some simple things they could do to kind of balance that out, make it a little bit better. Maybe you just get spells at the end of a battle. You don't have to sit there and draw it, but put limits on how much it'll enhance your character and things like that. Not have the enemies scale with you. You're not getting
That would be
punished.
the biggest fix if
Yeah.
they stop having monsters level. I don't know what made them think that was a good idea, but I
Well, I
mean it
think they were
happened.
trying to force you to play the game the way the battle system's designed, where you're supposed to draw magic and boost your characters that way. And they didn't want people to just grind their way out of boss battles. They wanted them to actually be able to, use the system the way it was designed. But like you just pointed out, once you figure out how it works, the game comes really, really easy. So
Yeah, that's something else. I hope they make a more convenient way to draw magic.
yeah, way too
Like
long.
maybe draw like get much more at a time.
Yeah.
Than you normally would, or
Or
make
just
the animation
maybe
a lot
you just
faster.
get like magic shards or something at the end of a battle. You just defeat the battle normal speed, and then if random number generator. Okay, you got 3 lightning shards, and that's it. You don't have to sit there and draw the magic.
Yeah, that would be nice. I
Something.
mean, it's small quality life fixes like that, but I'm trying to look back to Final Fantasy IX. The only real stuff they changed was the mods, or stuff they added were mods.
Well, I guess
FF8 may get mods also, even though it's not really necessary. But
yeah. Well, I just look at the Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac job system where they added all that content into the game, and that was primarily in response to some of the criticisms of the original. And if there's one thing from Final Fantasy 8 that's been criticized a lot by everyone across the board, is certain aspects of the gameplay. Not everyone, but a lot of people had issues with it, one thing or another. Granted,
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 8 is a lot more appreciated among the fan base, I think, than Final Fantasy 12 was. So that might be a little bold for them to go in there and start jacking with it.
I don't know.
There's a lot of people I've seen.
Very
I feel they
it's
both
their game.
they both have their fair share of detractors.
So I think me personally, I agree with that, but I think among the fan base as a whole, I think people are very nostalgic about 8. I mean, I've seen people get married to Eyes on Me music. Like
Okay,
people
true,
are,
true.
there's some people that are really into it. So I think they
That's
get
true.
really upset if you go in there and start jacking with it too much.
I think my fiance would
they got
kill
really
me if
into
I
the-
put a video game music song in our wedding dance.
The Legend of Zelda theme.
Yeah, or the Eyes on Me, and she finds out later it comes from Final Fantasy VIII. I don't think that would end well for me.
Aerith theme or something.
Hmm. I think it'd be even too corny for me. I think I'd be like, let's not do this.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of the E3 presentation, though, I mean, we've pretty much covered this thing in detail a lot. We didn't go frame by frame like we did in a previous conversation. I think that would just take 9 hours for us to do that. But
It's mostly a FF7 conversation. Little tangent into FF8, but
yeah, and maybe we can do some more of that in the future. But is there anything else y'all wanted to bring up? I'm trying to go through this trailer again real quick, just kind of hitting stuff randomly.
We got Nintendo tomorrow, and with Nintendo, we'll have more to talk about there. Next podcast, we can go into detail more on other maybe RPG related.
And some of the other stuff we
sorting it
saw
out.
in this. I'm gonna have to retitle this video. I think I called it Square Enix 2019 E3 presentation discussion. I should really have just called it Final Fantasy 7 Remake E3 presentation discussion. So let me I'll have to change that, but and then we could talk about in a future episode more of the other content in the Square Enix presentation, because there was still some other stuff in there I was interested in talking about too. So but you guys got any other thoughts you want to go over before we wrap this thing up?
Well,
I mean, I'm game to keep talking if you want to. You got something you want
to? There was one particular frame, I guess you could say, of this video.
Sure.
Around 6:43.
All right, let me pull this on the screen real quick.
Should be Barrett shooting at a sweeper enemy.
6:43. Okay, hold on.
43. Yeah.
All right. Let me put this on slow.
Century
When you get there,
Ray A.
you'll see the control scheme confirmed in the top left of the screen. So you've got L2 and R2 issue commands to allies.
Yeah, I
Up and
actually
down on the D-pad, switch characters.
right up here in the
And-
left-hand corner. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I put that in my notes when I was watching the trailer for the second time, or the presentation for a second time, and it looks like practically every button is on the controller is being taken advantage of, which I do like.
Yeah. Also,
Simple
they've
too.
got circle to evade and X for commands menu. But in the previous trailer, they had circle as commands menu. So that was probably like the Japanese version, right? Since circle and X are swapped.
Yeah. Even the original FF7 here, circle was confirmed and X was canceled.
Yeah.
That's something they started doing in Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah.
Well, not even Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII had like square for menu, and
It's weird.
Final Fantasy IX, I think, is the game where it started the traditional
Like for the
button layout.
For like the Western audience, right?
Yeah,
Like
for the
X
Western,
became confirm, and that was like the standard from there going forward.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. But it looks like, like they brought up in the gameplay explanation was, if you got the tactile mode where it freezes things a little bit and you can choose what you want to do. But then for players that want to have that more action experience, they let you put command shortcuts so you don't have to stop gameplay. You can just do it right in the middle of it too. So they're
Mhm.
giving you the option to play how you want, which I think is really, really cool. That's the way to go. I hate when games try to just direct you to play a game one way. So that's really cool.
I think I personally will probably do like more of the action oriented stuff, but I'm really glad there's a tactical mode for people who prefer that type of game.
That's what I was alluding to earlier when we brought this up the first time, was that it's really cool that they add that feature to be able to stop time and make your decision. But I feel as if it's just going to drag the amount of time it takes to get through battles down, and I don't see myself using it that much besides maybe in boss fights or something along those lines. But for regular enemies, I really think that I'm probably just going to end up playing the game action based, and that's the unfortunate consequence when they try to blend modes like that, like we've seen in other games where it's just one part of the battle system where it's giving you this more time to make a decision. It's underutilized, but maybe we'll have to see how people perceive the gameplay, the people that actually got to play the game at E3 this year, and see if there's more of a balance between those two modes.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, looks pretty cool for sure. I think that's all I got though. Eric, Stan, you guys got anything else?
Not right now. Probably more I'll be thinking about while I'm asleep, but
Yeah.
I think, like I said, there's a lot of good stuff, but
Yeah.
it's stuff that we already know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
Nothing
biggest
ma-
thing. Go ahead.
Nothing major, just probably lots of little hidden details, but you got to go through it, with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, I'm expecting from here till March, I'm expecting, just like with Kingdom Hearts, more and more trailers dropping and lots of interviews with all sorts of content being revealed. So
Mhm.
they're not real. They showed us a lot of nothing. I feel like they could have showed us everything they showed us. I feel they could have refined down to 4 or 5 minutes, but I'm glad they showed us what they did. I
Like
just
I said,
wish.
it's a Square Enix way. They show you so much, but nothing at the same time.
Yeah. Cool.
But
All right,
I don't
go ahead.
want to say that too bluntly, because we did get a release date and finally get to see Tifa's character model. So there
Oh,
are
great.
those, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, we already know. Maybe they're saving the good stuff for Tokyo Game Show.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for this podcast episode. I see John Minnie just joined us here in the chat. He says 5 a.m. here morning. Well, we can say for certain it'll be different. Yeah.
I think you said that an hour ago.
Oh, did he? I just saw this pop up. I was like, man, we just missed you. All right. Well,
I think most of our audience is asleep.
Yeah, it's dude, it's pretty late here. So
Getting late. Yeah.
So, anyways, we'll have to wrap things up here, but we'll do another podcast, next weekend, and we can talk about some of the other announcements from other presentations and some of the stuff we missed out from this Square Enix presentation. And there's a possibility me and Eric could have something going on Thursday also, but we'll find out for sure and let you all know. But we'll have to catch you all next week. And appreciate you coming on.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It was
as
a lot of
always,
fun.
it's good to have you on. We'll have to have you on again in the future.
And thank you, Ian, for coming on again if you see this.
Yeah, but we'll catch you all next week. Take it easy, guys.
Sure.
Yep.